Alright guys, Jack here, JBF Music and Guitar Lessons, back with some more musical guitar goodness for you. 4 easy, or about as easy as these things can be, Iron Maiden guitar licks. One from each player: Janick Gers, Adrian Smith, Dave Murray and Dennis Stratton. They're all in ascending difficulty with the easiest up first, so let's have at it, and of course, up the irons. If you want the tabs for this, or even just to support the channel, then pop along to patreon.com/JBFmusic, where you can get this and a whole back catalogue of tabs for just $3. But we've got Brave New World up first. This is probably the easiest one here, a nice little melodic solo from Janick. If you want more of his stuff, you can check out the solo for Wasting Love that I did fairly recently with the eye up there. We're starting off with a tone bend at this 15th fret, and then back to pitch. Now if you want to get into the nuances of it, he probably bends, hits it, well it's still bent, and then returns it to pitch. So rather than being, it's probably more of a, but you know, just tiny little details. So you have that tone, back to pitch, just going down to 13 to 12, and then we're going back up. So you have, after that, really similar thing, we're just developing the theme slightly, so you got that same bend, but this time down to this 12th fret on the B, where you want to add in a bit of vibrato. So that part. To wrap it up, the same bend again, so you have that tone. And then we have a little, I do this as a sweep actually. From the start of that bit of the lick, you'd have a down, up, up, up. So if you're totally new to sweep picking or kind of raking through the strings like that, you might want to check out my pick slanting video, which you can get with the eye up there. But essentially, if you hold the pick this way, you can just rake up through the strings without too much difficulty. If the pick's orientated this way, you're going to have difficulty picking all the strings. It will be near impossible. So just make sure you rotate even just a little bit this way, like a tiny bit like this, or even kind of almost straight with the strings, is enough to do the job. The last lick I was on my neck pickup for a slightly creamier, warmer sound. Here I'm on the bridge, and I'm probably employing a tiny bit of palm muting over the top 3 strings, but I'll get into that in a little second here. So what I'm doing is hitting this 15th fret with probably a downstroke, pull off, then I opt to sweep these. So just like the last lick, I'm doing an up and an up on the B and the G strings. You might want to just alternate pick. Totally fine as well. I just prefer the sweeping thing. I think it flows a bit more. So I've got that. Then we're going to go up to the 17th fret here, and we're going to bend it by a tone. You might notice I'm doing stuff with my fingers here. I'm basically using this finger to mute out the E string and the pick to mute out the G. It's a trick I stole from Guthrie Govan. If you want more of these muting tips to keep your playing more clean, you can check them out with the eye up there. I've got about 10 or so favourite ones that I use quite a lot. But you do that tone bend, and then add in some vibrato. So I think this one he bends it about kind of 5 times, so you got like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then kind of coming down on that 5th one. Again, tiny details, but if you want to get it as kind of pristine as possible, concentrating on, I know it sounds incredibly anal, but concentrating on how many dips you have in your vibrato makes it a lot more consistent. It's something I've only maybe been doing for like a year, or at least trying to do, because I was in the habit of just going at vibrato and kind of hoping for the best, leaving it to chance type thing. But again, bending with vibrato is a pretty difficult technique, so give yourself some time to get used to it if you're just wanting things slicks down. And if you do want a tutorial on bending with vibrato, I've done a pretty comprehensive one that you can get with the eye up there. So it starts off the second half of the lick almost identical. We're doing the same kind of pull off, sweep thing or alternate pick. But then we hop all the way over to the E string, again the 17th fret. We're going to bend it by a tone, then return it to pitch, and hit it just as we return it to pitch. So you're bending up, tone, and just as you get the string to pitch, hit it again, add in some vibrato. Now obviously he goes on to perform the rest of the solo, which is just killer, but we're just looking at the little lick here. So at the start of this lick I had mentioned something about palm muting. It's probably more on the G and maybe the B strings. I'm doing it just during the sweep to clean things up. So if I don't do any palm muting, there's a tiny risk that I'm going to let the notes bleed into each other, which isn't the end of the world. If you apply just a tiny bit of palm muting, like so light, I even don't like to call it palm muting because your palm's just kind of almost like palm resting. It's like your palm's resting on the strings, okay? So here I'm holding down both notes, right? But because my palm's resting on the strings, they're not going to bleed into each other. If I lift my palm off, right, move it back down. Overdid it there, but... So that second time you can hear just helps to keep this a little bit crisper. Yeah, if you're new here, then firstly, hello, hope you're doing well. And if you feel like seeing more of this kind of thing in your feed, do the old subscribe and enable notifications. You know, all the tricks and bells and whistles and hoops you need to jump through to get YouTube to actually show you stuff that you want to see. But what I've got here, lick number 3, is from Dave Murray in 2 Minutes to Midnight. So there's a few wee tricky things here. We're basically trem picking throughout, which is picking more or less as fast as you can on the string. So it's a wee bit difficult to demo at a slower speed, but hopefully you still got the gist of what was going on. What you want to watch out here is the timing. Rather than starting on the beat of the bar, we're starting on the 4th beat of the last bar. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4. So without the trem picking, we'd have something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? But as I say, we're trem picking, we're going up the scale. I think the way Dave does this, and in fact the way I would prefer to do it, so I'm using my first finger for the 12th fret, for the 13, the 15, 17, and then 18 is where I switch to using my second finger, 23rd finger, onto the E string, first finger again. And then this 20th fret is where we stop the trem picking, you just hit that normally. So then we bend it twice, by a tone each time. Back to pitch, pull off down to the 17th fret. And then what you got is the 20th fret here, up a tone. Now he uses a whammy bar for vibrato. I've got mine blocked off currently, but I just did a wide vibrato to kind of simulate the trem bar. So you can do that as well. If you don't have a trem, or if like myself you find it easier to just block it off. The trem picking is pretty much a staple of Dave Murray's playing and his improvisational style. If you want more of his habits and some of his licks and tricks, I've done loads of stuff on him. You can check out the most recent video that's sort of like how to improvise like Dave Murray with a little eye up there. Alright, last but by no means least, probably the toughest of the bunch, is a lick from Dennis Stratton solo in Transylvania. I did a tutorial on a whole whack of riffs from that album that's just chock-packed with killer riffs, or hence the title. I think I got more or less one from every song. If you want to learn those, very much like this, it's full speed and then half speed, but with no talking at all in that video. You can check it out with the eye up there if I've got any cards left. If not, I'll stick it down below. But yeah, what I've done here, similar to the last lick, I'm on my neck pickup. I've also rolled my tone down quite a bit. I don't have a Les Paul, so I'm trying to get that Les Paul sound with an Ibanez guitar. It's, you know, close enough, but not quite right. So the other thing I've done is I've rolled my tone pot down to maybe kind of like somewhere between 4 and 6. I don't want to say 5 because it feels like it's somewhere in that ballpark between the 4 and 6. You'll find the sweet spot where it gets a bit creamy. without being, totally impossible to play, because when you roll your tone down too much it becomes quite difficult. Hitting that 17th fret, pulling off to the 15, pulling off to the 14, and then we're down to that 17 on the B where you want to add some vibrato, and you repeat that one more time. Now this bit's really cool. Instead of bending it straight away, you hit the note, sustain it for a little bit, then bend it. Right, so you have... So I'm not hitting it before the bend, I'm doing this, hitting it, leave it for a little bit, bend. The next bend you just hit normally, back to pitch, and pull off down to that 15th fret. And then I can't totally tell here, this might be a hammer-on, back to the 17th fret, you might pick it. So just at your own discretion, whichever you think sounds better, more authentic, or whichever you find easiest to do. So this is quite a long lick, so I'll recap it into 2 chunks. So that part, the pull-offs, vibrato, pull-offs, more vibrato, then you have the pull-offs, sustain and bend, normal bend, pull-off, and then I'm probably picking that note, to be honest. Whether that's authentic or not, I don't know. That's what my muscle memory is telling me to do. So to get a feel for this one, if you haven't got the melody locked into your head, you're doing it 7 times. So you're going at 15, no, you're going 17, 15, 14, that 7 times. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that group of 3 notes repeats 7 times, right? If you don't have the speed to do this, this is a great little exercise. You can kind of sit in front of the telly, with your volume off. Don't know if my microphone's picked that up or not, but you can do that, just get a feel for it. In the longer term, you probably want to not anchor your first finger and be able to legato more freely, but if you're just getting a kind of foot in the door for these kind of licks, it's okay to anchor your finger and just kind of build some speed on it. But anyway, after those 7 sets of 3, 21, right? The maths of music. We're bending this note, 17th fret here by tone, bending it 3 more times, and then one final triumphant bend before it comes down, back down to pitch. So with those bends, to keep them sounding a bit kind of snappier, rather than bending up, letting it go down and bending up and back down, like you're bending up and kind of muting on the way down, or before you come down even. So it's like a bam, 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 instead of a continual wow, wow, wow. You kind of like a whap, 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 whap. Hopefully that's made sense. I'll play it one more time slowly. Yeah, that probably makes more sense than me whopping over the top of it. So after that, you're hitting the 17th fret, you're hitting it a second time and bending it. You're bending it kind of 3 more times successively, then a final 4th time. So you have... So you got these pull-offs, these kind of 7 groups of 3 notes. (17th fret again, first bend, 3 bends, and a final bend. Okay, so let's just do that bit by itself for good measure. But yeah, hit subscribe to keep up to date with the channel, leave me any suggestions down below, check out the tabs on Patreon, enable all notifications by ringing that little bell on the side if you feel so inclined. Cheers guys.